trust in people, especially with the kind of people we are. We're very very highly strung, and we're very meticulous and fussy.
I'm John Brody, and this is Rock Around the World. Today's show is our Valentine's Day special, and to celebrate, we'll be spending the next hour speaking at length with Freddie Mercury, Brian May, John Deacon, and Roger Taylor of Queen, and another Rock Around the World exclusive. Musically, there'll be selections from the entire recording history of the band, as well as some live material. So stay tuned for an hour with everybody's Valentine, Queen. Queen's a band that's always done things their own way. Organized in the early 70s, Queen rapidly became known as a band with 4 strong personalities who meshed perfectly into a creative unit. Their music sprang mainly from the heavy metal bands of the late 60s, and they decided early on that they wouldn't start out like every other band. They came in higher on the ladder, as John Deacon and Freddie Mercury explained.
Basically, I'm the newest member in a way, because they'd had the band formed for about 6 months with a few other bass players when I came along when I was at college in London. But even then, they had this theme basically of wearing black at the time on stage. That was sort of a theme of what to wear. And a lot of ideas from Freddie, I think, in the early days about the way we should sort of put over the show. But it started from then. It just slowly progressed over the years. Even at that time, we had certain very vivid ideas of what we wanted to do with lights and things like that. We just felt that if we weren't, even in the early days, if we weren't able to put on the kind of show we wanted, it wasn't worth doing it, because I hate this sort of process of doing a show and making excuses afterwards. Once you do a show, you've got to sort of stick with it. And if you sort of do a show and say, oh well, look, we do a show with a lot more lights or whatever, but we couldn't do it today because so-and-so happened, that's bullshit, And so we sort of looked upon it that way from the start. If we felt that we had to do a club circuit or whatever where all the facilities weren't ready, it just wasn't worth it. So we were being selected, and in a way it was a case of cutting your nerves, spite your face type of thing, But we were well aware of it.
Aside from the group's personality, Queen was unique in its sound as well. A combination of clear high harmonies with a heavy rhythm section. Queen developed this sound and refined it in the studio with producer Roy Thomas Baker, who would work with the band for their first 4 albums. Brian May tells why Roy was the best producer for a band like Queen to work with.
A producer isn't really much used to a band who has a fair idea of what it's doing itself, unless he has a very thorough technical background. Because it doesn't take long for a band to get used to the discipline of recording and the techniques, It just needs a real solid technical backup and something to bounce off, just to bounce ideas off maybe apart from the group.
As time went on, Queen started receiving write-ups that were more concerned with the group's personalities and images than the music. To be sure, on stage, Queen does put across a strong image, but as both Roger Taylor and Freddie point out, that's all part of the package.
I think it's probably a case of just projecting your natural personality, really. I think we do that. I think that comes over on stage. You just probably do exaggerate your own natural personality. But I think it's impossible to come across genuinely if you're trying to project something that you really aren't. I think I'd say Freddie is a naturally flamboyant person, yes. But that doesn't mean to say he's ultra loud all the time or ultra flash all the time, when he's relaxing or anything. I mean, he probably, perhaps he is. I mean, for instance, John is fairly more reserved, I'd say. And I think he probably comes over that way on stage. I don't know.
The kind of image that I put across is not planned or anything. It's just something that's progressed over the years. And it's something I live by. I mean, it's authentic. It's not false at all. So, I mean, I just go about... I just feel that it's a natural part of my life. When I'm on stage, I am like I am. And when I'm off stage, I'm from what I gather, from what I feel, is a different person. It's very difficult to analyze it like that, I mean, when you're on stage, you sort of come up with different vibes, and it's just, I look upon it as it's a very theatrical way. I mean, you've got to when you're on stage, it's very theatrical, and it's like I know that I've got to go on into a show, but it's certainly not plastic. I mean, I really let myself go, and I really get involved.
I really think it's just an extension of our real personalities, really. There are no real preconceived notions, about how we define our image at all.
Last year, Queen toured America after the release of their fourth album, A Night at the Opera. There were a lot of different musical styles emerging from Queen than were shown on the previous 3 albums. Their live act was shuffled to incorporate these styles and arranged very tightly, leading some to criticize the band for being too sterile on stage, a charge which bothers Freddie, but which Brian thinks may have been true.
It is a fine dividing line. I mean, you get people who are sort of spontaneous every night, and you come up with different things. There's a lot on the kind of show that we put on is triggered off with certain basic stepping stones, where, I mean, that's how you gauge it. I mean, you can't have an overall spontaneous show, because then things like lights and the kind of things just wouldn't be on. But that's the kind of theatrics that we rely on, and we want to use that. If you come and see a show, they do change, and what we try and do is, I mean, the show has a very large framework, but we work within that framework. But within that, there's a lot of change. That's what we're trying to say. But I mean, we don't suddenly sort of go on every night and say, okay, we start with this number or whatever.